Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Spurs Up Show, the best Gamecocks podcast on the internet. Today is Thursday, October the 14th, 2021. Today's show, I break down this weekend's games. The Gamecocks return home to take on the Vanderbilt Commodores, looking for their first SEC win of the 2021 football season. Guys, I'll break down this game in its entirety. First things first, we'll break down Vanderbilt, also talk top storylines, key matchups to watch, and keys to the game as well. As again, guys, South Carolina looks for their 13th straight victory in the series between the two schools. Guys, also, we got your listener questions, your voicemails, and a fantastic conversation. Great throwback interview with former Gamecocks quarterback and legend to wear the garnet in black, Steve Taneyhill, joined me over the summer in 2019. Guys, a phenomenal conversation, a great interview. We got a great show for you here on a Thursday, and it's all brought to you by our friends over at Upstate Movers Group. Guys, Upstate Movers Group, superior moving service. They bring care and attention other companies can't offer because they're just too busy maintaining trucks and profiting off of them instead of focusing on service. Guys, service is what separates Upstate Movers Group from the competition. They're not a trucking company. They're a moving services company, and they're also employee-owned co-op. Their movers are paid twice the industry average, and everyone on the crew is invested in your success. They have dedicated professional crew members, and they also offer black glove service. They offer end-to-end packing services, custom crating and packaging of professional items, and cleaning services as well. They're founded by Greenville natives and University of South Carolina alumni, guys, so a Gamecock-owned small business. They also offer 20 years of project management moving experience, and they can offer logistics and solutions that traditional moving companies simply do not have the skills for. Guys, whether in the upstate or across the state of South Carolina, if you have any moving needs in 2021, be sure to check out our friends over at Upstate Movers Group. You can find them on social media at Upstate Movers Group. Of course, if you have any other questions, go to their website, upstatemoversgroup.com. That's upstatemoversgroup.com. Be sure to check them out and tell them Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent you. Let's get it. Taxes and Gamecocks football beating the Vanderbilt Commodores. Those seem to be the three certainties in life, especially the life of a Carolina football fan. And here we are, folks, again. Happy Thursday. Hope you're all doing well. I'm Chris Phillips, host of the Spurs Up Show, as always. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I hope this show finds you well, no matter where you are, what you're doing, whether you're on the commute, you're in the office, you're on the job, you got the day off, maybe you're in class right now, whatever it may be, folks. Again, thank you all so much for tuning in. Hey, it's homecoming weekend. And of course, we're talking about the game this weekend as South Carolina looks for their first SEC win of the 2021 football season and looks to extend their winning streak over Vandy to 13 straight victories. Guys, it's hard to think. It's crazy to think about. It's hard to fathom that through the ups, through the downs, through the in-betweens of Gamecocks football, one thing has remained consistent, and that is South Carolina finding a way to beat Vandy. Guys, got a packed show here on a Thursday. Appreciate you all tuning in. Before we get going, just a couple of quick housekeeping items, guys. Our ticket giveaway, which will be running tomorrow. Appreciate our friends at Dason and Shalabi Law Firm for making that possible. Check it out on Instagram. We'll be picking a winner tomorrow afternoon. Like the post, tag 3 friends, and follow Dason and Shalabi Law Firm. Very simple, very to the point, but again, very excited to give away these 2 tickets to Saturday's game. Also, guys, speaking of the game, before the game, be sure to head out to the TSUS tailgate out at Seawells. We'll be out there once again, spots 93 to 96. Look for the TSUS and the Big Cock Club flag flying. I know that the fair's in town. People need places to tailgate. We'll be across the street from the Rocket in the fairgrounds, in case you don't know where Seawells is, or just down the street from Jay's Corner, if you will. But again, going to be a really, really good time. We'll be out there on 11 or so. Would love to see you guys out there. Again, the TSUS tailgate going to have a really, really good time. All right, guys, without further ado, hey, like I said, it's homecoming weekend, so let's talk some football. Gamecocks taking on the Vanderbilt Commodores for a 4 o'clock kickoff on the SEC Network at Williams-Brice Stadium. Of course, guys, yesterday we talked best bet, we talked gambling picks, and South Carolina, as of today, still sitting as an 18-point favorite in this ball game. The over-under set at 51. Now, I mentioned the winning streak earlier, guys. The series history. South Carolina leads the series against Vanderbilt 26-4. The Gamecocks have won 12 straight in the series. You might recall the last time South Carolina lost to Vanderbilt was in the 2008 season in Nashville. What's crazy, guys, is that actually came on the heels of South Carolina losing back-to-back to Vandy, because you remember 07, that was the 07 season in which Blake Mitchell, Corey Boyd, that bunch of Gamecocks started out 6-1. You came home. I think you were ranked 6th in the country. You lose to Vandy. All hell broke loose, and you finish that season 6-6 and don't even go to a bowl game. So again, it has been a long, long time since Vanderbilt had really any success against the Gamecocks in football. And of course, guys, the last meeting last year, South Carolina, even with that team in 2020, even all of the questions, the turmoil, we all know what happened. The Gamecocks ran through the Vanderbilt Commodores, beating Vandy 41-7 on a rainy day in Nashville. You might recall Kevin Harris running wild in that game. I think that was really like his coming out party, if you will, where you're like, damn, Kevin Harris is a legitimate back in this league. But the Gamecocks dominated Vandy a season ago, winning 41-7. And like I said, guys, South Carolina looking for their 13th straight win over Vandy in this football game, guys. Breaking down the Dores just a little bit. Their head coach, of course, they're also in the same boat as South Carolina. They have a first-year head coach in Clark Lee. Vandy sits 2-4 right now, 0-2 in the SEC. Get this, guys. I talked about on yesterday's show, right? When I gave my best bet, I told you guys Gamecocks -18, just how much Vandy has struggled this season. And of course, we talk about the deficiencies and shortcomings of South Carolina, and this being a rebuild for Shane Beamer, if you will. If this is a rebuild at South Carolina, I don't even really know how to label what's going on in Nashville, because the statistics will tell you it has been a very, very, very rough year for the Dores. They are averaging, guys, just 13 points per game offensively, the worst offense in the SEC, and they're giving up 36 points per game. Guys, I also might have failed to mention they're 0-2 in SEC play. And again, I know it's Georgia and Florida, but the Dores so far have been outscored 104-0 in SEC play. So it's been tough sledding for Clark Lee in his first season. He did have some big victories over UConn and Colorado State, but overall, whole body of work, been a very rough going in these first 6 games. And of course, they'll look to turn it around in the second half of the season. Guys, let's get into top storylines. And I mentioned it a couple of times, but I really just want to take a second to appreciate, because, over the last decade or so, we have really seen all ends of the spectrum when it comes to Gamecocks football, right? We saw the heights of Steve Spurrier and winning 10, 11 games a season and being ranked in the top 10 and all that good stuff. And we've seen the depths, right? 2015, the end of the Muschamp era, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But again, one thing has remained consistent, and that is South Carolina beating Vanderbilt. There's been some blowouts. There's been some really close games. But at the end of the day, the Gamecocks have won 12 straight games. And what's wild about that streak comes during when James Franklin was at Vandy. That streak comes during a stretch which the Gamecocks have lost 6 of 7, including 5 straight to the Kentucky Wildcats. So it's just wild to think, if you're on the Vanderbilt side of things, and if, dare I say, you're a Vanderbilt fan, which I don't know how many Vanderbilt fans actually exist, but if you're someone who supports Vanderbilt football, it's got to be a little bit maddening for you and a bit crazy that, we have not been able to get South Carolina. South Carolina just continues to year after year after year. Doesn't matter if they win 2 games, 3 games, 4 games, or if they win 9, 10, 11. South Carolina is beating Vanderbilt. At least that's been the case the last 12 seasons in a row. So again, will the streak live on this year? Gamecocks looking to extend it to 13 straight victories. Guys, of course, second week in a row, this is another top storyline, a battle of first-year head coaches. And of course, we talked about Josh Heupel last week, Clark Lee, a little bit of a different background, a defensive-minded guy, if you will, but overall thought of fairly highly in the coaching circles. But first-year head coaches, in games like these are really important, SEC East hierarchy, all that good stuff. We talked about last week who the game was more important for, Josh Heupel or Shane Beamer. I don't think that conversation's really warranted this week. I think it's a little bit of a different scenario. Obviously, the Gamecocks need to win this football game. This is a must-win football game. This is a football game you absolutely have to have. But, anytime you got a pair of first-year coaches going at it and they're looking to build their programs, and obviously for Clark Lee, this would be a monumental win. Hey, both these teams looking for their first SEC win of the 2021 football season, and both coaches looking for their first SEC win ever as a head coach in this league. So again, really intriguing, a battle of first-year head coaches, different styles, both looking to build their programs respectively, both looking to build their programs respectively in the SEC East, and sort of build back up to a level of respectability, if making a bowl game on a consistent basis. Vandy did have it rolling there for a second, but can Clark Lee, of course, his job, we understand the challenges with that, and Vandy, how much they care about football, the resources, and what they allocate to football, how much or how little you could say they really allocate to football. But a battle of first-year head coaches with Shane Beamer, Clark Lee should make for an interesting matchup Saturday afternoon at Williams-Brice Theater. And the big storyline for me, guys, is this. Listen, I understand this week it's been very popular to be doom and gloom and down in the dumps and think to yourself, oh, South Carolina will never win another game again, and this team's just terrible, and this, that, whatever. I look at it this way, guys. Where there's turmoil, where there's struggle, there's also opportunity. And this is the perfect opportunity for a bounce-back type of game for South Carolina. Call it for what it is, guys. Vanderbilt's not very good, okay? Vanderbilt's not Kentucky. They're not Tennessee. They're certainly not Georgia. I'm not even sure Vanderbilt's Troy or East Carolina. They've got their own slew of problems up there in Nashville. But it's the perfect opportunity for this football team as you kick off the second half of this season, right? And you sit at 3-3. You're winless in SEC play. And this is a football team I think is a little bit desperate. It knows it needs a good performance, not just a win, by the way, but a good performance as well. I think this game comes at a very opportune time for South Carolina. Again, last week, you got punched in the face, man. Your defense didn't look like they normally have all season long. Your offense continues to sputter, continues to struggle. I think this is the perfect opportunity this weekend for a real bounce-back game. Homecoming, you're at home. What will the crowd be like? I don't know, but either way, you're going to be in front of your home faithful, if you will. You're honoring the Hall of Famers at halftime. There's a lot of positive things happening on Saturday. I think it's a great opportunity for this football team to build some confidence, build some momentum, play their best football, and put together a really solid performance on Saturday. Speaking of that sputtering offense and Marcus Satterfield and the Gamecocks offensive attack and offensive identity, guys, that's another storyline for me in this football game. Can South Carolina at least finally begin to find an identity? When you don't have one, when you don't have an identity and you're trying to find one against the likes of Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, that's not a really favorable spot to be in. But a team like Vanderbilt, who, has struggled mightily, guys, on the defensive side, like I said, 36 points per game. I think they're averaging giving up around 450 yards per game. So it's been really tough sledding for them. This is maybe a little bit of a more manageable opponent you look at and say, you know what, maybe we can do some things. If you feel like maybe you could draw some positives from the end of the Tennessee game, you're able to run the football and do different things, and you hope Luke Doty will continue to progress. He's done a good job of taking care of the football, but this offense has got to find an identity. If it's going to win more than 4 games this season, you got to start to find that identity. Obviously, we see the criticism for Marcus Satterfield, his shortcomings, what he hasn't done. But guys, again, I've said it all week and I'll say it again. It's not just on the play caller, okay? It's not just on the play caller. The personnel, the execution is making it really, really hard, and will make it hard on any play caller to establish an identity. But we saw things at the end of the Tennessee game, like Kevin Harris out of the I formation, more power sets, if you will, more of a fullback. Do we start to see stuff like that? This offense has got to find its identity. You're going into week 7 right now, okay? There's no excuses from this point forward. So again, in this game against Vandy, you should have the opportunity to have success offensively. Will this be the week the Gamecocks find their identity once and for all? Another big storyline here, and I talked about this a lot with Alex McGrath because you guys ask me this question, I feel like, weekly. Why does South Carolina struggle so much to get off to a positive start? Why do the Gamecocks struggle so badly to get things going early? Why does it feel like we're always falling behind and we're always playing catch up and, we've got to overcome adversity so early? So my question is this: what must the Gamecocks do to come out of the gate with urgency and to start fast? Because again, I think this is a game, and I'm going to talk about this more a little bit later, where setting the tone, there's already this, you can feel it too. There's this hangover, right, from the Tennessee game where fans are still, looking back. Oh my God, we're so bad. We're terrible. We haven't beaten Kentucky. We haven't beaten Tennessee. Woe is me. We're awful. The offense stinks. We stink as a whole. The coaching stinks. Everything stinks, right? The norm, right? When you're losing football games. Getting off to a fast start and trying to wash that taste out of your mouth as quickly as possible is very important in this football game. So I don't know if there's a philosophical change. I don't know if scripting the game better in the beginning is the right move. I don't know if there's anything Shane Beamer can say, but something's got to happen for the Gamecocks to come out of the gate with urgency and to have some, early fight about them, if you will. Hey, get a stop early on defense, score a touchdown, do whatever you got to do to take advantage, to take hold of the momentum, and don't let it go. So again, getting off to a fast start. What does South going to have to do to come out of the gate with urgency and to get things rolling? Again, it's homecoming. Gamecock fans want and need something to feel good about. This football team wants and needs something to feel good about. Can it do that Saturday against Vanderbilt? Guys, my final top storyline is this. And again, I mentioned it a little bit earlier. Again, the perfect opportunity for a bounce back, but also this game. I look at this game, guys, as really setting the tone for the second half of the season. Because, again, there are some fans out there, woe is me, all hope is lost. But the bottom line is this: you're 3-3, and you have 6 more opportunities to take the field and do something and make something of this season. And when you look at the second half, yes, I know Texas A&M just beat Alabama. That's going to be a challenge going to College Station. But you play Florida, you play Mizzou, you play Auburn, you play Clemson. Of all those teams I just mentioned, how many would you put a loss next to it in heavy black ink? I mean, I think there's some winnable games there. Now, you've got to get better. You've got to improve. There's no questions asked. And I'm not sitting here telling you guys, I'm not saying that getting to a bowl game is much, much tougher than it once was, seeing that you lost to Kentucky and Tennessee. But is it impossible? Not necessarily, but you certainly have to improve. No Gamecock fan, it's not going to satisfy the appetite of any Gamecock fan if you go out there and beat Vanderbilt by 10, 13, a touchdown, God forbid, especially when you're a home 18-point favorite. You need a game that you sort of break out, if you will, and you show that progress and you show promise for the second half of the season. Set the tone, not just for this football game, set the tone for the second half of the year where you say to yourself, you know what? We can do this. We have things to feel good about. We have things to build on. We can see the pieces coming together. And who knows? Maybe you find yourself into the season coming into the rivalry week against Clemson, looking for that 6th win, or maybe you're already at 6-5. Who knows? But I think it's just pivotal too, because this football team, there's so many people saying so many different things right now. Some people have hope. Some people are saying, oh, the season's over. This team is terrible. And I just think if you have one of those close touchdown type of games, it's going to be really hard to come back from that and really believe that, are we good enough to win 6 games? Are we good enough to get to a bowl game? So again, having that impressive, dominating type of victory, truly setting the tone for the second half of this season, I think it's going to be pivotal in this game on Saturday. All right, guys, let's move into key matchups to watch in this football game. Some great players taking the field in this one. I'm going to start in the secondary. Of course, guys, your defense was exposed last week. And one of the reasons why, you are missing your top defensive back, in my opinion, in Cam Smith. Thankfully, fingers crossed, he should return. And for that reason, he is in my first key matchup. I got defensive back Cam Smith against the wide receiver Cam Johnson. Now, Johnson right now, not the leading receiver, but 20 catches, 184 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He was their leading receiver a season ago, and I think he's one of their top playmakers. They actually returned, guys, 3 of their top receivers coming back. So they were pretty loaded at that position coming into the football season, but the loss of Cam Smith was evident. I mean, it killed you. It killed you. Your secondary got exposed last week. Like I said, that's really, I think, going to be the calling card of Vanderbilt in this football game. If they're going to beat you, Ken Seals, they're going to have to throw the football. And Cam Johnson's a guy, if you don't watch out, I know we think to ourselves, oh, it's Vanderbilt. They don't have any good players. They don't have any playmakers. Cam Johnson's actually a pretty solid player, so watch out for him. Cam Smith, his return, I think, needs to be pivotal, needs to be big for you. So, again, Cam Smith against Cam Johnson. The matchup of the Cams on the outside going to be really, really fun to watch in this football game on Saturday, guys. My second key matchup, moving to the offensive side for South Carolina. And we talked about identity, right? What does South Carolina need to do to establish an identity? Who is this offense? What is this offense, if you will? And I said a couple of weeks ago, fail fast, right? If the running game is not there, okay? If the running game is not there, scrap it and go to the pass. But I say that and also saying this. The best version of this Gamecocks football team will only come when South Carolina can run the football. Guys, that is no secret. I spent months all summer telling you guys, hey, if the Gamecocks can't run the football, they're not going to have offensive success. And so in a game like this, where I know you've struggled to run it against anybody, right? And you just had your best performance against an FBS opponent running the football when you ran it up for 153 yards on Tennessee. You look at the other side, Vanderbilt surrendering 200 yards per game on the ground. You got to take advantage, and the guy who's going to do so and needs to do so, running back Kevin Harris against the anchor for Vandy and Fernie Orji. Orji, 44 tackles on the season, 6.5 tackles for loss. Really, really good player. And by the way, when I say anchor, that's like the spur of the South Carolina defense. There's going to be times, I think, with this offensive line, hey, they're going to have them blocked. Believe it or not, I think this offensive line, they're going to have them blocked. Kevin Harris has got to make a guy like Orji miss. Kevin Harris has got to be shifty. His vision's got to be on point. He's got to break off some big runs. Getting the running game going, guys, when that happens, it is going to free up this offense exponentially. So getting a big game from your top back. We know what Kevin Harris did against Vandy a season ago. Can he duplicate that? Running game going to be pivotal in this game on Saturday. Guys, my final key matchup. And like I told you guys, I really think for Vanderbilt, I know the Gamecocks have struggled, by the way, in run defense, but I really think for Vandy to have any type of success in this football game, they're going to have to throw the football. And Ken Seals, a guy, hey, you look at the 1 through 14 SEC power rankings of quarterbacks, Ken Seals has sat in that 14 spot basically all season long, right? Been a rough year for him, okay? And so if they're going to have to throw the football, Jalen Foster, to me, in the back half, can certainly take advantage. Jalen Foster against Ken Seals, guys, my final key matchup. Foster, again, already with 4 interceptions. Seals, get his stat line. 5 touchdowns, 7 picks. So he will put it in danger. And if you want to be able to pull away in this game and have the blowout victory we're all clamoring for, getting the ball off of people, getting the ball off of Seals, and your ball hawk, Jalen Foster, making big plays for you in the back half of that defense, going to be absolutely pivotal for you. So again, Jalen Foster, hey, at this point, it's just like copy, paste in regards to handing out game balls and cock of the walk and all that good stuff. Can he have another big game for you? And can he get another big interception or maybe a couple in this football game and really break things open for South Carolina against Vanderbilt? All right, guys. Let's move into our keys to the game. What does South Carolina need to do to ensure victory and ensure they get their first SEC win of the 2021 football season Saturday afternoon at Williams-Brice Stadium? Like I told you guys, one of my keys to the game last week, it's funny, was start fast. And certainly the quite opposite of that happened with Tennessee taking a 28-0 lead and never looking back in the first quarter. But bottom line is this, guys. You have problems, deficiencies, issues. I've said that over and over and over again. But you're not Vandy level bad, okay? You're an 18-point favorite at home for a reason. Let me make that very, very clear. But the way you allow a team like a Vanderbilt to come into your house and make things uncomfortable, we'll put it that way, is you let them hang around in the first quarter, hang around in the second quarter, hang around in the third quarter. All of a sudden, you look up in the fourth quarter, it's a 1-score game. And guess what? That other team on that other sideline, they don't know they're supposed to lose. They have a lack of self-awareness. All of a sudden, they look up and they say, oh, my God, we're in the ball game. Or, oh, my God, we're tied. Hey, we can win this damn thing. You've got to set the tone early. And guys, that is my first key to the game. Set the tone. Set the tone early. You know what? We're the better team than you. We're better. We're going to dominate this game. We're going to control this football game. You have no chance. You're out of your league. Set the tone early. Again, I know I said start fast last week, but really just set the tone. Even if you don't jump up 21-0, 28-0, whatever, but set the tone that you're going to be the more physical team. You're the better team. You're going to take advantage of their mistakes. You're going to be coming after them all day long. Let Vandy know, like, hey, you're in our house. We're going to control the football game. We're going to win the football game. You guys have no chance. Set the tone early. My second key to the game, guys, like I told you, I think Vandy's going to have to throw the football to have any chance in this football game. And when he does, my second key is simple. Make Seals pay. Make him pay. If he's willing to put that ball in harm's way, if he's willing to just throw it up, if he's willing to try to squeeze that thing in there to his talented wide receivers, guys like Jalen Foster, R.J. Roderick, Jamar Brown, Jalen Dickerson, David Spalding, Cam Smith, Darius Rush, all those guys in the back half, make him pay. Make him pay, because that's how this game can really get out of hand. That's how this game can really get away from Vandy, and the Gamecocks can pull away and get, again, that blowout win that so many of us are desiring. Make Seals pay. Again, 5 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. He's shown a willingness to put the ball in harm's way. If he puts it there, oblige and take the football and make him pay for his mistakes. My final key to the game, guys, is this. Final key. We've been talking offense all season long, okay? And believe it or not, I think Vanderbilt's probably the worst team you've played at this point outside of EIU, okay? And if you're going to have any success in the back half of this season, the second half, if you will, you're going to have to find out what you're good at, what you're not so good at, and what you like to do on the offensive side of the football. Bottom line. And if you cannot do this in a game against Vanderbilt, I fear you may not be able to do it at any point this season. So, guys, my final key to the game, establish an identity. Figure out who you are. You know, Marcus Satterfield, I've been very quick to remind you and let you know, I don't think it's just play calling, right? I think it's personnel. I think it's execution. But Marcus Satterfield's got to be better too. He's got to be better. This coaching staff's got to do a better job of putting players in a position to win and be successful. So Marcus Satterfield, hey, we need a blowout victory. The players need a blowout victory and a positive performance. Marcus Satterfield needs a good game calling plays. He needs it badly to produce points, to take the pressure off of him. I mean, for multitudes of reasons. So again, my final key to the game, establish an identity offensively, because I'll tell you this, if you cannot do it in this football game, I don't know when you can, because it surely ain't going to get easier against the likes of A&M, Florida, Auburn, Clemson, etc. So again, guys, that's my breakdown of Saturday's game against the Vanderbilt Commodores. I will lock in my official score prediction tomorrow. On tomorrow's show, I will lock in my official score prediction, guys. You be sure to check that out. But yeah, that is the breakdown of the Vanderbilt Commodores. Would love to hear you guys' thoughts, comments, everything else, guys. With that being said, let's jump into your listener questions regarding Saturday's game. eCarch08, are the fan base expectations tainted by Spurrier's and Muschamp's first season results? I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, Steve Spurrier raised the bar at the University of South Carolina, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, Will Muschamp went 6-6. It's not like he did any miracles or anything. So I think most fans are okay right now. I think most fans, they know South Carolina's kind of right where they should be. We talked about it yesterday, but you've won the ones you were supposed to. You lost the ones you were supposed to. You're kind of right where I expect you to be for the most part. You're only a game off my projection. So Austin G _45, what do you want to see from Marcus Satterfield in this game? I guess creativity. Guys, I just want to see the offense work. I just want to see us score points. Again, I don't think it's all been on Satterfield. I want to see us catch the football. I want to see us open some holes. I want to see us block. I want to see us win first down. I would like to see Luke Doty get more involved in the run game. So however that has to happen, whether that's Satterfield, whether that's execution, everybody's got to be better. Let's go score points. Let's go score points. Jaden B says, I'm going to say it 28-10. Okay, he's locked in 28-10. T made it 34. Dak and Juju could run wildcat option, and Dak can throw for a triple option. Why not do this? Because that sounds like an absurd idea, and thinking that you're going to hand this offense off to Dak Joyner and that's going to be a positive is comedy, to say the least. Let's see. Flip One Frank says, DK needs more of a wildcat package, both passing and running out of it. Guys, listen, I like Dak Joyner. I'm glad he's a Gamecock. I think trying to force Dak Joyner into being a playmaker in this offense is just a foolish thing. I really do. His time has come and gone, man. Dak Joyner is who he is. I love the kid to death, but he's not a playmaker. If he was, he would establish that by now. He's not a playmaker. So I'd actually prefer to see his reps at wide receiver go to someone else. Give Amarian Brown those reps. Give E.J. Jenkins those reps. Somebody else who hasn't proven they are what they are. So, Scott W. Lawson, at this point between Florida, Auburn, and Clemson, how would you rank least and most likely to win? I would say least likely to win. I'd probably go least likely Florida. I don't know. That's tough. That's really tough. Least likely Florida, most likely Clemson. Just because Clemson's a rivalry game, you never know what might happen. He also says, with the run game, why don't they just look at what worked so well last year and use it? Great thought process, great concept. Well, I think you saw that a little bit last week with the fullback and getting him more of a power set. I hope we continue to see that. Also, Scott W. Lawson says, maybe Hutcherson alone was just that big of an influence in line. Maybe he was. Last question, Tate1111 _ Do we miss Mike Bobo in his run game yet, or is it still F Mike Bobo? We can miss him in his run game, and it still be F Mike Bobo, Tate. So both of those things can be true. Guys, again, appreciate the questions. Thank you so much for always being engaging, the banter as well. Don't go anywhere, by the way. We got a great conversation, great interview, a throwback interview from the summer of 2019 as former Gamecocks quarterback and all-time legend Steve Taneyhill joined me for a conversation. Great stuff, guys. Again, these throwback interviews have been incredible. There's so many conversations and so many interviews that I know you guys have never heard before. So to be able to do that and be able to have you guys hear those and kind of relive some of these great interviews we've done, it's been a really, really cool thing. But again, guys, thank you all so much for tuning in. Like I said, I will drop my official score prediction tomorrow, but that is your full breakdown of Saturday's game against the Vanderbilt Commodores. And again, guys, like I said, I truly appreciate y'all. Thank y'all so much for continuing to rock and roll with the content, with the show, with everything we do, guys. Truly do appreciate it. Y'all have a great rest of your Thursday. Appreciate you all tuning in. Enjoy this interview with former Gamecocks quarterback Steve Taneyhill. All right, joining us today on the Spurs Up Show is a man that played quarterback for the Gamecocks from 1992 to 1995. He ranks second all-time in passing yards with 8,782 total yards and ranks number one overall in passing touchdowns with 61. He also led the Gamecocks to their first ever bowl victory in 1995, securing the CarQuest Bowl over West Virginia. I'm very, very pleased to have on the show one of the best Gamecocks quarterbacks in South Carolina history, Steve Taneyhill. Steve, appreciate you taking the time, man. It's a pleasure to have you on.
I appreciate you having me, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So let's kind of go back to the beginning with you, Steve. Obviously a standout, player, standout recruit in high school. You choose to go to South Carolina, get there in 1992. Just kind of talk about the recruitment process for you. What was that like? Was it always South Carolina for you, or what was there a decision you had to make?
I came down to South Carolina and Alabama, and Jay Barker was a freshman starter at Alabama. So it came down. Rich Bisaccia was my recruiter, and Coach Bisaccia now coaches for the Raiders. But just got along great with him. Talked to him every Wednesday night at 10:30 p.m. for 2 years. So you get to know somebody, and I just thought the opportunity to play fast and be able to get on the field was at South Carolina. And Alabama was about 19 hours away from home, and South Carolina was 10, and my parents don't like to fly. So, there was a few factors in, but probably, besides, Coach Bisaccia and recruiting and the travel for my parents, the opportunity to play I knew was going to be sooner. And it's even like today. I don't understand why these quarterbacks, all these big recruits, all go to the same school. You got to sit there and wait. And I didn't think I could sit and wait.
No doubt. So you get to South Carolina in 1992. Again, your head coach was Sparky Woods, and I know you went through a coaching change, which I'll get to in just a little bit. But talk about first off just kind of your relationship with Sparky Woods. What was that like?
Well, Coach Woods wasn't really a position coach, So Art Wilkins was our quarterback coach and coordinator my first year, and obviously Coach Bisach was our running back coach, and he recruited me. So unless your head coach is a coordinator or going to favor one side or the other, you just don't have a lot of interactions with them. So Coach Woods and I, just really didn't have a lot of interactions. Obviously, when he finally decided to start me in week 6, and from then on out, a relationship did grow. But hey, he didn't coach a position, and it's you just don't. You get a lot closer to your coordinators and your position coaches.
No doubt. So like you said, that 92 season was very, very interesting. You guys start the year 0-5. Obviously, you're on the bench. You're not the starter yet. And, the Gamecocks, Sparky Woods, all those guys decide to turn to you, and all you do is lead South Carolina to a 5-1 overall record. Obviously, the punctuation mark being the end of the year rivalry with Clemson, beating those guys 24-13. At their place. Just kind of talk about, though, you get to South Carolina as a true freshman. I know, like you said, you wanted to go somewhere where you could play immediately. Just kind of talk about going through that losing streak, being the backup guy, and did you kind of sense you had your opportunity coming, if you will?
Well, I got to play a little bit, and played like 3 plays against Georgia, and we lost, and we had the little revolt or whatever you want to call it, and then I finally got the opportunity, to play my start against Mississippi State. But the week before against Alabama, I really played pretty much the whole game, and we got beat, which Alabama won the national championship that year. But I played pretty good, and we had a week off, and they informed me that I was going to start that Mississippi State game, and I'd never been a backup, and so. There's a big difference between the starter and the backup, and I think my personality was more for the starter, and it was an unbelievable 6 weeks. Man, we really should have beat Florida in the swamp. Obviously beating Clemson was big, but that first game, Mississippi State was ranked 15th in the country, and we beat them, and it really just, our defense was so good, and I've said this since 1992. A lot of people give me the credit, but our defense was really good that year. And, when once I started to play, I think we only averaged like 20 points a game and went 5-1. So, but the confidence of the team grew week by week. And man, that was an unbelievable 6 weeks. And it ended up being a whole year because how we finished and beating those SEC teams. And it was our first year in the SEC, man, it created such momentum in Columbia. It was a fun time.
For sure, yeah. No, I think you definitely obviously brought the optimism, again, finishing 5-1, going out on a high note. You mentioned the first year being in the SEC, and that's definitely something I wanted to talk to you about. I guess in your recruitment as well, but was that ever kind of something that swayed you to South Carolina? Obviously you played quarterback on the first team that, was in the SEC, the first year that South Carolina was in the SEC. Was that a selling point to you to play in the SEC?
I don't know that it was the seller, but the SEC at that time, you really had, the Big 12 and the Big 10, and I grew up, 30 minutes from Penn State, so I was in Big 10 territory, and so actually, it's just different back in those days. But the lore of the SEC, and it has grown. I think as each year since '92, and they've added a few teams, what it's turned out to is unbelievable. I mean, the SEC is the marquee conference. You can look at it. I know Clemson's won a couple national championships, but the SEC and how many players leave the SEC every year and play on Sundays. I mean, it's the marquee conference, and it was then. I mean, every team was big, every team was fast, and every week was a challenge. And I played against some really good players, and especially some really good defensive linemen that. It takes a while to get used to that. In high school, being 6'4" in high school, I'm about the biggest guy in the field. You get in that huddle and your linemen are all 6'6", and you feel like a small guy. So the adjustment to that league is unbelievable. And we didn't have the opportunity back in those days to get in there in January. No one did that. That would have made a big difference. I probably could have got on the field maybe week 1 instead of week 6 if I'd had that opportunity to get there and go through spring practice and those things. So the game of football has really evolved, and these kids getting in January, and that's why you see so many young guys playing. I mean, they're getting a half a year under their belt and getting used to the guys in the weight room and the school part of it. I mean, it's the way to go if you can do it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree with you. It's a massive change for college football. But going back to that 1992 season, like you mentioned, there were definitely some big wins. I mean, your first game starting, beat number 15 Mississippi State. You guys beat number 16 Tennessee on really memorable game. Obviously, the stop 2-point conversion, which I know was a huge win for you guys because when you look at the history of South Carolina football, and it's obviously improved lately, but especially at that time, South Carolina hadn't beaten Tennessee all that much. So to get that win, especially, and again, like you said, make a splash the first year in the SEC, I think was huge. For you specifically, Steve, your freshman season, you went 86 for 162, 53% completion percentage, threw for almost 13,000 yards, 7 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. How do you feel like your game translated from high school to college? Because I know for every athlete going from high school to college sports, especially when it's SEC, you have some freshman growing pains to go through.
Oh, it's no question. The game just moves so much faster. And the system that was in place there for us is I had to do a lot of calling out the defense in fronts. And back in those days, there was a lot of 50 fronts and 30 fronts, and that was tough. And I had Kenny Farrell, who's now the principal at Somerville High School, and his son's a rising player for us at also plays center at South Carolina. But Kenny helped me a lot, where he would actually do a lot of the calling the defense and take that off of me, so I could, really look at the secondary and all that. But our running game was so good that year. Again, I didn't have to do a lot, but just, the capability to throw the ball down the field and get the ball in those guys' hands. But I mean, I had Brandon Bennett and Rob DeBoer as my running backs, and we really could do a lot of things on offense because we were talented across there. And Ernest Dye, who ended up being like 12th pick in the draft, was our left tackle, didn't give up a sack all year. Corey Lucci was the right tackle, and he was a junior, and the next year he got drafted in the 3rd round. So we had a lot of talent. We just, I guess they just needed somebody that would take some chances. And I was a freshman having the time of my life, man. I was going to take chances, and then the defense was there to, if you made a mistake and you threw an interception or you made a few bad plays, our defense was so good that they bailed you out. And like I said, man, it was a great year. But again, a lot of the credit needs to go to that defense because they were our strength.
For sure. So let's talk a little bit about, obviously, the you're not a guy that's from the state of South Carolina again. And I've talked to a lot of different guys that, just kind of when it clicks for them, how big the South Carolina Clemson game is. Because I know you obviously know now that's, a huge game. Some people say South Carolina could go 1-11 as long as they beat Clemson with a good year. Just kind of talk about, because, you're a guy, again, that has some of the most, I would say some of the best memories from that rivalry. Just kind of talk about when it clicked for you, how big of a rivalry that was.
Well, we had a lot of guys from the state. So that whole week leading up to that game, me as the out-of-stater, and I grew up, the Penn State-Notre Dame rivalry or the Pitt-Penn State rivalry, and which is big up there. So I knew about the, rivalries, but, every day, and we had a lot of guys on our team that had high school teammates at Clemson. And so it was so important to those guys. And I think when we got up to Clemson on that Friday, it kind of clicked to me on that Friday how big of a game it was. And we had been playing well, so there was a lot of, I guess from the Gamecock faithful and the Gamecock fans, they really thought we could go win. And so there was a lot of hoopla around that, that game for us. And it turned out to be, a great win. And again, Brandon Bennett, really had a great game, and our defense played so well. And our fans charged the field, and, it was, you learn a little bit at that point, how big it is, and then it just grows. And 2 years later, we won at Clemson that got us into the bowl game. It was the game we had to win just to get into the bowl game. So, A lot of fun memories up there. I didn't play very well against Clemson when we played them at Williams-Brice, but I played pretty good the 2 times up there, and a lot of good memories.
Yeah, let's talk about that 92 game at Clemson, Steve, because that's one that, I guess you could say your play definitely stood out. The on-field antics stood out as well. I mean, I'm thinking specifically the play you roll out, which it's a great play as well. Shouldn't be undersold. You hit I forget the wide receiver's name. Hit the wide receiver.
A seam penny in the corner over there.
Yeah, it was great throw, great catch. I mean, really a great play. But you go on to do the baseball swing, which is something that Gamecock fans obviously love. Just kind of talk about that play in general, and then that rush of emotion afterwards.
Well, what's crazy about that play, it was 3rd and goal, like from the 15. We had that ball inside the 10 and ended up going backwards. So it might even have been, it was either 3rd or 4th down. I think it was 3rd down, but you got to take a chance. And once the pocket collapsed a little bit and I got outside, I mean, Asim was 6'4", big time recruit, and had a really good year that year for us. And you just take a chance. You give the guy the opportunity to make the play, and he made the play. I threw it to a spot. He was the only one that could get it, but he had to stay in bounds, get that ball. He actually touched the pylon, and from there it was celebration time.
For sure. I also want to talk about one of the most iconic images of the South Carolina Clemson rivalry, really on either side, is the picture of you standing at midfield signing the Tiger Paw. I'll guess first off, obviously you don't know someone's taking a picture of you, but I mean, could you ever imagine that picture would have been like as monumental, I guess, as you could call it, as it is today? And just kind of talk about, again, your freshman season, you're at Clemson, you get that win, and I just can imagine the rush of emotion after the game, what that must have felt like.
You see, on that play, I believe, and again, I think it was that play, Brandon Bennett had a long run, and we were really just trying to run out the clock. And Brandon had a long run. I knelt down on the Tiger Paw and just, pretended to scream my name. And I think a few plays later, Brandon broke off another good run, and I turned to the crowd, and you don't think about it. Again, I was 18 years old or 19 years old, and you just don't know at that point how the longevity of that picture, and it's really about the only picture I have. My parents have one, but it has lasted a long time. It's one of the obviously my favorite pictures.
Yeah, and I don't think it's going to be going away anytime soon, just my guess. Let's move into 1993, because 1993 was a very, very interesting year. Again, you guys are led by Sparky Woods, but what would be his last season at South Carolina? Kind of a rough year for you guys. You guys go, well, similar to last year, they'll go 5-6, 3-5. But I know with all the momentum you guys had at the end of 92, I know you guys were shooting for a lot more. And then you specifically, statistically, threw for just under 2,000 yards, but 6 touchdowns and 14 interceptions. Just talk about 93 specifically for you. Kind of what was the story behind that season?
Well, I think we got caught up in, a lot of overconfidence all around. I don't think we worked that hard in the off season. In 1993, we were winning going into the fourth quarter, 8 games, and ended up 4-7. So I particularly didn't play that well. I had gained, I had gained a little too much weight, and we didn't have the maturity, I guess, at that point in time to realize that we weren't as good as we thought. But like I said, 8 games we're leading going into the fourth quarter, and that's one of the things that when Coach Scott came, is one of the first things he said to all of us in that meeting room was we were all too heavy. And I mean, he didn't use those exact words, but he brought in a strength coach, Dennis Tripp, and it changed. We were in so much better shape that next year. When I was coaching, that was one of the things that I always believed in because of that 93 year, was to have your team in shape. You can be really good and have good players, but if your players can't play into the fourth quarter, you can lose games that you shouldn't. And it was a great learning experience. Obviously I would change it if we could go back and win some more games. And we started that year, we beat Georgia at Georgia. On the last play of the game, and Brandon goes over the top. We had a 2-minute drive to get us down there. So that win was probably the worst thing that could happen to us, because we really got the big head coming off the year that we had in '92, and a lot of the same guys on the team. And it just didn't work out that well. And they let Sparky go. And for me, Ricky Bussell came in as a quarterback coach, and I really learned the game of football from a different level. He came from Virginia Tech, and along with Coach Scott was coming from Florida State. So for me, it was beneficial, because we really, at that point in '94, '95, got into the system that benefited me the most, which was being in the shotgun. I'm not the fastest guy, never was, but it helped me see the field. So '93, it wasn't, it wasn't the greatest year, but it was definitely a big learning experience for me as a player, and later, helped me be successful as a high school coach.
For sure. I want to go back to that the game you talked about at Georgia to start the '93 season, because, again, like you said, monumental win. I mean, Georgia was ranked 14th at the time, and, again, this is an opponent where South Carolina hasn't had the greatest history against. Anytime you beat Georgia is a huge win, especially, it was at Georgia, between the hedges, a massive win. Obviously, you mentioned Brandon over the top. Brandon Bennett, the fantastic running back, probably one of the best in school history. But just kind of talk about, again, you talked about the 2-minute drive. I mean, everybody's heard the famous Larry Munson call, lay down, you guys, lay down. Just kind of talk about that game and that 2-minute drive, and then you see Brandon go over the top with, I guess, 2 seconds left, and that had to be crazy.
Well, it was the hottest game I'd ever played, the hottest football game I'd ever played in. And again, that's in the early '90s, before the Under Armour and before all these things to help with the heat. I remember at halftime going in, and us standing under showers, taking our pads off, taking our pants off, standing under showers just to cool down. It was so hot. And we made that drive at the end of the game, and threw a lot of passes to Boomer Foster, I think, and Matt Campbell, tight ends, and we got it down there, and we called timeout, or they called timeout. I think it was us, and it was 14 seconds to go. So we go out there, and we did a lot in '92 and '93. Brandon Bennett over the top. Brandon was such a great athlete, and that was the plan. And I turned the wrong way. And so when I turned the wrong way, it messed up the timing, and Brandon didn't really get off the ground. And, I hustled, and we got everybody up. Georgia probably should have laid, just like, Larry Munson said, they should have just kind of got up slow. But our offensive line, and we had all linemen in there, tight ends and linemen, and then just the running backs. So we got everybody up quick, and we snapped that ball, I think, with about 6 seconds. And I turned the correct way, and Brandon really got stopped kind of halfway up in the air, and he does like a 360 off somebody and gets in. And, one of the most fun wins, in my career for sure, because of where it was, a 2-minute drive to win the game, and you win it on the last seconds. And man, that was fun. But that was, again, like I said, I think that was a little bit of our downfall. We left that, we left Sanford Stadium thinking we were, the greatest thing, and we got lazy.
No doubt. So, again, that '93 season, it's kind of funny. Again, Sparky Woods is let go. Brad Scott is hired. I know you talked about you didn't really have a relationship with Sparky Woods. Kind of talk about your first interactions with Coach Scott and what your relationship was like with him.
Well, I think it took about into the season about 3 or 4 games till Coach Scott really learned, the competitive spirit that I had. I wasn't the greatest practice player. Practice to me wasn't that exciting. I mean, I wanted to go have fun, and practice isn't fun. And we worked so hard, and myself and Coach Scott developed a great relationship. And again, Coach Bussell was my quarterback coach, and he was a great guy. And it turned out to be, Coach Scott and I are still friends to this day. I mean, Jeff Scott's a coach at Clemson, and he was our little ball boy back then. And it's just a relationship that's still there, because, I have a lot of respect for Coach Scott, and he taught me a lot about the passing game that he brought from Florida State. And it really helped. If you look back, the stats that we had as an offense in 94 and 95 are at that time unbelievable. Now they're not the greatest stats in the world because these teams are really throwing it around. But we were one of the first teams to, be in the shotgun every snap. And we had some great players. I had Stanley Pritchett in the backfield and Deuce Staley 1 year. And those guys played a long time in NFL. And, I had Zola Davis as one of the wideouts and Toby K. These guys were really good football players. And that was fun on offense. We didn't have enough depth on defense to hang in there. But, we put up some great numbers and had a lot of fun as the offensive unit those 2 years.
For sure. So, again, I mentioned the 94 season, you leading South Carolina to its first ever bowl win against West Virginia in the CarQuest Bowl. That season also very memorable. You guys pounded Clemson 33-7 at Clemson again. I guess I'll ask you, it's kind of funny when you look at the years you were there, Steve, because it was very back and forth, but you guys get them in Clemson, can't get them in Columbia. I'm sure there wasn't a different type of mentality or anything, but can you explain why the great success on the road, but not at home against those guys?
Well, I'm in 1995 at home. They were better than us. We couldn't stop anybody that year. We had a tough time, had a lot of injuries on defense, had a lot of youth, and we just couldn't stop anybody. Our 94 team was pretty good on defense. We held Clemson to 7 points at home, and even the West Virginia game, our defense, in the bowl game played great. So, even as an offensive guy, you really the defense is what separates the really, really good teams from, just the average football team. And, just in 95, we just didn't quite have the defense that could hang in there. And Clemson came in and ran the ball and pounded us. And there was no, I had a pretty good game on offense, but we just couldn't stop them. And that was my whole senior year was kind of like that. We put up great numbers and we just didn't have the defense to hang in there.
Talk about that 94 win though, over Clemson, walking out of there again a winner. I think there's, as a competitor, I think there's something fun about, it's always fun to win at home in front of your fans, but I think going into somebody's backyard and stealing a win from them, and especially the 94 game, winning 33-7, I know that had to be a really satisfying feeling to walk out of there, beating those guys again.
Oh yeah, and again that got us in the bowl game. We knew going up there that we had one shot at making a bowl game, and we had to win, and so there was a lot of pressure on us to get that win. And another fun day. We really played well on both sides of the ball. We had the big trick play throwback after halftime that really on the second half kickoff that really got us and put the game away right then. The next play we flipped it to Brandon and he scores and that's it. But our defense played great, and it is fun to win there. Definitely for the guys on the team from the state and for the fans, to go there and win is a big deal. And it was that day for sure.
Steve, talk about the 95 CarQuest Bowl again. Monumental. You lead South Carolina their first ever bowl win, again, beating West Virginia 24-21. One of my favorite highlights to watch, Steve, is the play where you run into the end zone and the commentator says, watch him celebrate now. Obviously, you guys went crazy. You took your helmet off. But just kind of talk about that play and then bringing South Carolina its first bowl victory, just what that means to you.
Well, what I had, we got to go home there for a couple of days at Christmas, and it was a big deal for us to be in that bowl game. And I told everybody at home I was going to run one in. And, the play broke down. We had a great play called and West Virginia blitzed I got lucky and got out of trouble and just dove in. It was, obviously a big play and, helped me, be the MVP of that game and helped our team win. But our defense was lights out that day again. And Brandon too. We really just had a great game plan and really played well and a big win for the state and they've gone on to win some more bowl games and win bigger bowl games. But we were the team that won that first one and I think every guy on that team is pretty proud of that.
Yeah, and I think they definitely should be. I know that holds a special place for Gamecock fans. That 94 season, I mentioned, you talked about, Steve, your guy, you like to have fun. I think people would definitely describe you as a fun guy, obviously with the antics and the celebrations. And, I mean, you were beloved by South Carolina fans, again, not just for your play on the field, but your charismatic attitude, again, the celebrations just kind of punctuated what you were all about. Just kind of talk about where you think that came from. I mean, was it just something natural where you just were a very high emotion guy? I know when you look back, you probably say you were a silly kid at times, but I mean, it's something again that South Carolina fans to this day love watching those highlights, seeing you go crazy on the sidelines or on the field, stuff like that.
Well, I mean, I just think that you work so hard, every day that you only get, 10 or 11 chances to go out there. And so when you get that opportunity, man, you better make it fun. And we didn't win every game we played, but I went out there every Saturday, and I enjoyed the game of college football. I enjoyed the crowds. I enjoyed going on the road, playing at home, coming out the tunnels, having the fans holler at you, the interactions with the other guys. So I made, I was going to have fun, and that's, I think the work you put in for football is, you can't go out in the yard and play the game. Where basketball, you can go to the court any time and get a pickup game and play. But you only get so many chances, to go out there on Saturdays and play with your teammates and play in the stadiums we played in. And I played with a lot of emotion but I was having fun. I felt like we put in a lot of work for those 11 days, and I wanted to enjoy those 11 Saturdays.
No doubt. And I want to mention that junior season. Obviously, you had a great year, threw for 2,259 yards, 63% completion percentage, 19 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Switching gears a little bit, Steve, what inspired the mullet? I know we put up the picture hyping up the show with you looking at the hat, which I think is a hysterical photo. But obviously, it's one of the other things you're known for, obviously, the mullet. What inspired that?
I just, when I was in high school, I just started letting it go. And when someone told me, you ought to cut it, that turned me into going the opposite way. And my dad was the first one, you need to get a haircut. Nah, just that rebellious. And it just lasted. And until Coach Scott got there. And once Coach Scott got there, it was gone. But it was really just being a defiant teenager as it started. And then, it just grew to that. And then obviously after my freshman year, it really took off. And it is funny to look back, especially now. You catch a lot of heat for that. I catch it a lot from a lot of people that meet me for the first time, or man, this was you. And now I don't have all that much hair, so it kind of came back on me. But it's just one of those things. Like I said, this defiant teenager, and people tell me I should get it cut, and I just went the opposite and said, nah, just let it grow, forever, really.
No doubt. So the 95 season, Steve, for you, fantastic season for you. You went 261 for 389, 67% completion percentage. You threw for over 3,000 yards. You threw 29 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. But like you said, 95 did not go the way you guys wanted. 4-6-1 overall record, 2-5-1 in the SEC. I mean, you guys scored in your wins 68 points, 77 points, 65 points, and 52 points. So there was not a lack of offense when it came to you guys. I mean, how frustrating was it for you, being the South Carolina signal caller? And, I mean, you're doing everything you can out there every single week, and just, you just knowing you don't have the guys on the other side of the ball to really, help you out and secure games.
Well, I mean, you just got to get it in your head. You got to score every possession, and that was our goal. And we got on the field. You kind of know during the week, because you do watch film, and you do peek in and watch some of their film, and you kind of have an idea of what you got to do going into those games. And we had to score a lot of points, and we had the offense to do it. And again, like I said, we were, beside Coach Spurs' Florida team and obviously Florida State back in those days, we were one of the few teams doing, shotgun every play. And we had 3 different speeds we went, and, we rarely huddled. And, it was fun to be on that offense. And it wasn't frustrating. It it was frustrating. You win the bowl game and you think, hey man, we're going to go to another bowl game the next year, and it doesn't happen. But as an offensive unit, we set a lot of records, and we scored a lot of points some Saturdays, and sometimes we won and sometimes we didn't. But as an offensive unit, it was pretty fun.
No doubt. So like I mentioned, your senior year was by far your best year statistically. And I asked you the question kind of how you would grade yourself your first year when you came to South Carolina. Where do you feel like you grew most as a quarterback specifically from your freshman year to your senior year to have this type of success you did?
Well, by my senior year, I was in the meetings when the coaches were putting together the game plan. And that's what happens when you have a 4-year starter. The game, when you hear people say the game slows down, and that's exactly what happens. I've had a lot of people say, you remember how loud it was in this stadium? Nah, you don't. It's almost like as soon as you step on that field, especially the longer you play, it's just quiet. You don't hear anything. And that comes from knowing the game of football inside and out, and having your coaches prepare you. And again, by my senior year, I was in the game planning, on Mondays with the coaches. I was in the meeting room. I knew what the game plan was going to be. It made practice a lot easier. I was ahead of the game, watching film with the coaches. It was by far my best year, but again, it's really supposed to be. I played a lot of football, and we started 40 games in a row. You get to those last 10, 11 games, you've seen about everything they can do, and that's why you see the quarterbacks nowadays, especially in the pros. These guys are, Tom Brady's in his 40s, and how good he is. He's seen everything that you can throw at him. Same with Drew Brees and these guys. There's nothing you can do over there that they haven't seen, and you put good people around them, and good things are going to happen. And because the game, just what they say, it slows down, and that's what really happens.
No doubt. So your South Carolina career, obviously 95, Steve, comes to an end, but you leave South Carolina. Again, I mentioned, at the start of the show, second all-time in passing yards, number one all-time in passing touchdowns, which I know could possibly be taken over. I want to get to in just a second. But, you leave South Carolina with a fantastic career. I mean, what did it mean to you looking back? I'm sure those numbers mean even more now to you now that you look back on your South Carolina career.
Oh yeah, because it's really about 14 records that I have. You have a couple biggies in there, but there's about 14 in there that I have, and it makes it worthwhile. And I've never left the state, and as I coached here for 16 years, and in the state of South Carolina, and it does mean a lot to me. And I wish we had some better outcomes as the seasons went. Only going to one bowl game in 4 years, but I wouldn't trade anything that happened during my career. It was everything I thought. I thought we would win some more games, but personally, I played pretty well, and had a fairly decent career, we should say.
No, for sure. One, you obviously mentioned you have a ton of records. There's just one that popped up that I want to mention, just speaking of how good that 95 offense was. You have the most yards in a single game at South Carolina, passing and rushing combined. You had 512 yards against Mississippi State. So an insane number. Jake Bentley was close last year against Clemson with 490, but 512 is a pretty crazy number.
Yeah, that Mississippi State game, man, that was unreal. It was 7-0, 7-7, 14-7, 14-14, 21-14, 21-21, 28-21, and we finally got a little break. But that game was, obviously statistically the best game I played, and broke the NCAA record that day, and would later get break. It actually got break that year.
For sure.
But just an unbelievable day. I mean, that was. I wore a long sleeve shirt that day, and I was very superstitious, and I ended up wearing it every game, even though it wasn't cold. And I tried everything just to get back, to play as well as I did that day. But that had a lot of things to do with a lot of people playing well that day, not just me. The offensive line played great. Stanley had a big game, and Zola Davis, and just Deuce Staley had a big game that day. We just had, we had a lot of success that day.
No doubt. So forgive me for not knowing this, Steve. I feel like I should. But after 95 ends, your South Carolina career is over. What were your plans as far as football? Because, again, a guy with as successful career as you had, I'm sure the NFL had to be on your mind. Just kind of talk about your life after South Carolina in regards to the pro football.
Yeah, there's only like 3 quarterbacks that year, or 3 or 4 that got drafted, and I got signed as a free agent by Jacksonville and got cut in training camp, and then they sent me to NFL Europe for a season, and Jacksonville re-signed me, and then they drafted somebody, and I had the opportunity to continue to play. I played in the Arena League, and I got a call one day to come to Greenwood and coach a private school, and I said, I guess I'd rather coach than continue to play. And the pro game, just wasn't the same atmosphere. It wasn't, you have teammates with families, and it's just different. And, I wish I would have, maybe got a shot to play some games in the NFL, but, hey, got into coaching and that was a pretty good ride as well.
Yeah, I was going to say you had a really, really good coaching career. So, yeah, I know definitely. I'm sure South Carolina fans are familiar. You got into coaching at Chesterfield High School, led those guys to a couple different state title appearances, won the state title, I believe, in 2007, I believe was the year, and 2008 and 2009. So you guys did really well. You coached Cambridge Academy, coached 8-man team football. Just kind of talk about your stops as far as your coaching career is concerned.
Well, I had a really good team. We won 2 state championships at Cambridge, and had to coach the late Gaines Adams, and he went on to some unbelievable success at Clemson and was the 4th pick in the draft, and bounced around and went to West Ashley for a season. Had some really good players there, and I was the offense coordinator. Then I got to Chesterfield, and along with the other coaches and the kids, we built that into a true powerhouse. I mean, we won it 3 years in a row. Really should have won it 4. We lost 21-20 in 2006. I think we won like 20, starting in 2007, like 25 straight home games. We beat Pageland in 2006, and Chesterfield had never beat Pageland, like 36 years. So that was a great 7 years there. And then I went to Union and Coach Keaston Smith my first year, and he was the state player of the year, and heck of a quarterback. And my last year there, I had Shy Smith, who's now a Gamecock and awful good football player for University of South Carolina. So it was a good run. Kind of glad I'm not in it. The game of football, not so much the game of football, but just how coaches are allowed to coach and the time, and it's just not the same. And I don't miss it. I'm really just a football fan now. I get to go to the Carolina games every week and just really be a true fan of the game.
No doubt. Well, you definitely answered my question as far as if coaching was in your future. That's a resounding no, without a doubt. But you've obviously went on to different ventures. Obviously, in 2016, you purchased the 5 Points Bar Group Therapy, renamed it Steve Taneyhill's Group Therapy, which is an awesome bar, one of my personal favorites. Just kind of talk about how that came about, what made you want to do that, and obviously how business is going.
Yeah, business is good. It's a different time in 5 Points right now. That's for sure. A lot of things, going on, but I always wanted to one day have a bar, and I really thought that I'd move back home to Pennsylvania at some point and do that, and then it just worked that we started looking at it, and we bought it on June 30th, 2016, and hopefully we'll be able to keep it for a long time. It's an iconic place. Hootie and the Blowfish has named their tour after the bar, the group therapy tour, and there's a lot of good things, and really glad to be back in Columbia. Like I said, I get to go to all the Carolina games. Got some season tickets and tailgate and be a football fan. It's a good time. I really, to be honest, I just want to hunt. and being the owner of your own company, you have that opportunity to do some hunting. So, it's just, maybe we've looked into some, maybe getting another one up here in the upstate. And, if something comes around and comes open, we might do it. So I enjoy it, but I really enjoy the free time. And, and everything that goes with that.
No doubt. So like you mentioned, you're obviously still around the program. It's funny, your mural is up in the indoor, the new ops building, if you will. You're a guy that has season tickets, like you said. So you're definitely in touch with the program, what's going on. I want to get your opinion on just kind of the state of South Carolina football right now. Obviously, what Will Muschamp is building. I think he's doing a great job recruiting and bringing in the type of guys he needs to be successful, get South Carolina back where they were from 2011 to 2013. But just kind of from your viewpoint, talk about what you see in Will Muschamp and this Gamecocks football program right now.
Well, Coach Muschamp played at Georgia. I guess we played against each other twice, and when I was coaching, he was coaching not on the East Coast. He was at Texas. He was in the NFL for a while, and so our paths never crossed. So I didn't know him that well when he got the job here. We've come to know each other pretty well now, especially when you have, I had Shy Smith and Coach Spurrier was, had came to Union twice, and when Muschamp got the job on like Friday, Monday he was in my office in Union recruiting Shy. So I have a lot of respect for Coach because he does pound the pavement recruiting. Last year, we had a lot of injuries on defense, and we're not that deep. And this year that schedule is brutal, but I think he's recruiting the right kids. That new facility is going to help get kids in, and I think we're on the right track. And I think this year is going to be tough. We're going to have, we're going to have to win some games that probably not supposed to. But I really look forward to next season, 2020. I think it's the opportunity for us to really have a great year with what he's building in recruiting.
Without a doubt. So obviously his starting quarterback, the Gamecocks starting quarterback, Jake Bentley. I talked about your records before. Obviously the passing yards record and the passing touchdowns record that could realistically be broken. I think he only needs 8 touchdown passes to break your record of 61, and I think he needs just under 3,000 yards. Very doable numbers. But kind of just talk about are you pulling for Jake Bentley to break the records? Do you selfishly want to keep the records? I mean, what does that feel like? I mean, as a guy that holds those records and they're potentially going to be broken.
Well, they've lasted a long time. Who would have thought that as much success as Coach Spurrier had here with his teams that those records, some of them still stand. But I think Jake's going to get them all. I really think they're going to be pretty good on offense, and I think Jake's going to get all of our records. So, I've known him a long time. Coached against his daddy, and have been a friend of Bobby Bentley for a long time. So I know Jake, and I want the team to have success. If some of the records get broke in the process, then that's what happens. But I would much rather the team have some success. If the records go down, they lasted a long time, like I said.
No doubt. So, Steve, I'm going to get you out of here. Before I let you go, though, obviously you had such an illustrious career at South Carolina, so many great memories in garnet and black. But if you had to pick one memory you would say that really stands out to you as your favorite, do you have one that you can narrow it down to?
Well, it'd have to be the bowl game. Like I said, I was MVP, first one ever for the University of South Carolina. So that I just think that in general is it has to be. There were a lot of great days. The Mississippi State game was in '95. Obviously, one of the greatest days a quarterback could have, and obviously the first start. But there were a lot of great games, a lot of great memories. But I'd say the CarQuest Bowl probably ranks up there pretty high. And the week before that, it's really a good week because we had to beat Clemson to get to that bowl game. So those two go hand in hand, really.
All right, so kind of off the wall question: your favorite celebration of all? What was kind of like your go-to celebration to do? Was it the home run swing? Was it the have one
that's where it all started. The home run swing is kind of where it started, and that's what a lot of people remember. And again, when it started, I really was just a youngster out there having a good time. And they changed the rule on us. That the celebrations that we did and I did changed the rule in college football, and you couldn't do those anymore. So it had an impression on somebody in the league office that, it ended pretty much after the 93 season.
Yeah, I was going to say, how tough would it be for you, Steve Taneyhill, today to, you have to keep your helmet on, can't do the celebrations. I'd imagine it would have kind of put a damper on your, on your spirit a little bit, or at least just having to wait till you get to the sidelines to do everything.
Yeah. And when Coach Scott got there, one of the first things he said was, "Hey, you're wasting too much energy, doing all that. Come to the sideline and sit down." And so it's definitely different now. And what's fun is you can watch Sundays. NFL has gotten back to those guys having some fun. And I like to see people enjoying the game of football. And like I said, you put a lot of work in each week.